Good evening, and welcome to the quarterly CRA meeting for the City of Crestview. I would ask at this time that you silence any electronic devices that you may have. And I welcome all of you here. Good to have anybody in the audience. And as usual, we love to have the media in the back room. Ken, Cal, and I guess Mike's working for the news bulletin this week.
Yeah, you look like it.
At this time, what I'd like to do is have one of our newcomers here, and that is tonight, she would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I just want to make a couple opening remarks before we get into business, and that is the reason why the meeting has been changed from the 20th of July until tonight, and that is first and foremost because on the 20th we have other obligations. 3 of these individuals have to go to a transportation planning organization meeting early afternoon, and then we have a meeting and a dinner in the evening. And so if we'd have kept this in the morning, we would have met each other coming and going. It just was too much. And I also felt that we needed to meet because we haven't met in a while, since April. But unless I have objections from the fellow commissioners, my intent is to keep the meetings over here. I think that FAMU is an excellent facility. I like it over there. But number one, I didn't like the time of day. I don't think it made us available to people to come and see us in the evening. I think it had too much of a festive atmosphere, having the food and people jumping up and down and eating during the meeting. And so, in fact, we had Teresa running around the room chasing us with a little silver microphone because it wasn't set up to record everything. So I thought what we needed to do is move it back in here where we had the recording equipment, we had the microphones, were accessible in the evening. And that would be my intention, to keep it over here unless I have some complaints from my fellow commissioners.
So be it.
All right, thank you for that. What I'd like to do this time then is ask if anybody in the audience has any comments they would like to make on anything that might be on the agenda tonight. There'll be a second opportunity near the end of the meeting, but if you would like to address the commission at this time, please come forward. I don't see anybody rushing up here, so we'll move into business items. Item 2A, and Teresa, I believe you have that.
This is the request from Okaloosa County concerning the Piggly Wiggly parking lot contribution. The building has been removed now. The project will include public parking, green space, maybe a location for a sitting area, which could also be double as a location for a stage during our festivals, maybe some artwork for downtown district. Plans are sort of flowing now, so we are interactive with the county in deciding how and what and when and where. It is a rather expensive item to pave a parking lot, so this contribution will help in the planning and the design phase, and the CRA is in their rights in order to fund that. We have also discussions with the city and the county concerning the modification of Beach Avenue, the one-way street that comes just to the adjacent to the parking area. Everybody knows it's like almost 2 lanes wide, and one lane is directed to turn and go one way, and one was supposed to turn and come south on Wilson Street. Too many times that is ignored, and that one way tries to become a 2-way. So by utilizing that other lane as angle parking, and it's already paved in there to allow for that, will be a good use of that, and also supply us with 10, maybe 12 additional parking spaces. So that is a good attribute, and they will include that in their construction modifications and plans when they are actually constructing the parking lot. If you need to know if this $65,000 is approved, we would need to make a transfer into the operating account, as your current balance there is $12,146.95. Could I answer any questions?
Mr. President? Yes, Mr. Fairclough.
That's an interesting thought about turning beach into one lane into parking. I haven't thought of that. That was good. But are you talking about the lane on the south side of the street or the lane on the north side of the street will be parking?
The lane that is adjacent to the parking lot itself.
Okay. That's
So as
good.
you're traveling down
That's good
to your
because
left.
you got the driveway, 2 or 3 driveways at that laundromat, and you wouldn't get very many parking spaces over there.
No, so that would be counterproductive. And if we had chosen to put it on that side, we would pay for it ourselves. As it is, it will go in with part of the parking lot.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Hayes.
I didn't see it in the brief here, and maybe we don't even know. But what's the county's portion of this? Or
The
what-
county's portion, well, they actually purchased the property, and they have removed the, and took away the building itself, including any asbestos abatement. I don't have exact figures, so I won't quote them, but I have heard that when it was first coming out to join with the city, that was in order to file for the availability of a $750,000 grant, whereas if either one of us had secured that, that's who the property would need to be entitled to, and that would barely pay for the project. So it's probably, if that gives you a rough estimate of what the total cost is going to be.
Not really, but that, when I was looking here, I said, well, maybe the county would have, the project is probably gonna cost this much, and this is much we're asking for you, but all I see is what they're asking from us and not what their portion of that. I was just
I
curious.
will be happy to secure that for you, but we had, in previous CRA meetings, we had discussed the amount of $150,000 in order to help with the parking area, and that I think was supposed to be about 20%.
Okay,
So
I was just curious, that's all. But if you find out, give me a
I
buzz.
will find out and let you know.
Then I'll get it.
Mr. Cox, you're next.
Yeah, several points. This letter that was dated May the 24th, I don't believe any of us council members or commissioners saw this before or into the second week in June. And Ms. Godwin was present at the joint city-county public meeting, and nothing was discussed at that time. So this is something I want to say yes to, but I'm not there yet with information. And Commissioner Hayes says, yeah, what is the projected cost of this project? So we don't know. We paid initial investment a little over $39,000, I believe. We're asking for $65,000. And then again, we will contact you to request assistance for any final construction. So we don't see know any of these even estimated numbers of what we're looking at here.
Well, like I
So I
say,
think we need a clarification letter from the county as to
well,
estimated projected costs.
this was the letter that Mr. Boyles had brought with him the evening he come and spoke before the city council. This was the letter that he hand delivered. Like I say, in discussion, since the design work hasn't been completed, we really are guesstimating at what the exact funding for the, or what the project is actually going to cost. That's one of the ways that you yield a project amount, is to complete your conceptual plans as to what it would be. You will then investigate the work that's going to be accomplished, and it builds your bid sheet. I do know that it's anticipated to be quite costly for Okaloosa County. They are spanning it through 2 budget years. So I know that they will have a
Please,
finance.
Ms. Cox still has the floor.
They will have the financing, and if I can secure the breakdown that they have now, it will only be a guesstimate. When we originally talked with the CRA, it was like I say, was for a donation of $150,000, which was assumed 75 at the beginning and 75 towards the end, if it were necessary, and if neither entity received any of the grants.
Mr. Gardner, you have the floor.
Yes, I talked to Nathan Boyle about this. And they are not going for a grant. They don't do it through funding from the county, but they are not going for a grant. And it's over $150,000 just to pave the parking lot. I can tell you that. It's the estimate he gave me just for paving the parking lot.
Yep.
And I'm sure they already did all this work, and I'm all for it.
Yeah, they have.
It'll be a help to downtown.
Like I say, the estimated figure they were rolling around was not to exceed 750. So,
Mr. Blocker.
Yeah, a couple of questions, Teresa. Mr. Hayes had part of my notes. Bill had part of them, and they ain't seen my notes. But number one, yes, I would like to know what is the actual size of that property that it will be holding by the county. Approximately, what is the
size?
Yes, acreage.
Acreage. It's approximately 140 by 150 feet, and it has additional travel area granted by the alleyway that is beside it. Since it is an active alley, we will not close the alley, but it would be allowed to be an entranceway there, should they deem that as being part of it. But it's approximately 140 by 150.
Okay, part one. Personally, I would like to see a proposal from the county of what they intend to place in infrastructure or whatsoever on that property. It won't cost no $700,000 to do what they have told me they're going to do there. I'm not for dolling out here $65,000 without knowing what we're going to be getting.
Okay. Well, it's not to exceed that. That is not the price estimate. That was not to exceed the 750. I'm sure they are including the purchase of the property, which is a good $100,000 in itself. The asbestos abatement and the demolition of the existing building, the reconditioning of the surface there, any demo work that it's going to take to make it pad ready, and then the actual paving of the property, paving of the additional area on Beach Street that's going, the curb and gutter that's going to have to be added there. There's numerous attributes to this. Until they get a more definite plan, there was a sketch attached to the letter when you received it at the council showing a general thoroughfare with a small green space area. They had not went so far as to put the landscaping areas in. As you know, City of Crestview has a landscape requirement. So there will be landscape there, some type of irrigation system to maintain that landscaping, some sort of structures as for sitting. They do want to have a bench there for, I think it was for Judge Powell. They do want to have something there, some type of formal artwork dedication. They want it to look of course, it being dedicated to Judge Powell, they do want it to look first class. So what that's going to run in dollars and cents will well exceed the 600,000 times 2 many times over.
Well, anybody in this business can give a projection. I don't want to see these CRA funds divot out here and divot out there and get out of our priority line.
Well, as I said to Mr. Hayes, I will be happy to find out what amount the county is expecting it to be, and if they can give a breakdown of those particular costs.
Well,
And I say the same thing to you. I will be happy to find out.
That's what I'm saying. I will not agree, and not in good faith, to go ahead and make a contribution of $65,000 until we get that in hand and review it. Period. That's all I have, Mr. President.
Mr. Faircloth?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't we approve that 65K at our last meeting?
I don't think so.
No, we
We
didn't.
discussed it in length.
No, we
It was
didn't.
presented to the city council,
Right.
not the CRA. CRA would have to approve it.
Okay.
No more comments, questions, I'd like
Hayes,
to.
you got it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Just for the record, I'm not against this. I'm inquisitive, so our citizens would like to know what we're doing with their funds. I'm in favor of this, so I just want to let y'all know, but it's our job to question certain things, and I don't fault you or any for not having the information. I think the county should have a representative here to tell us some of these questions that were coming up, but I'm in favor of this right here. But I just would like to know, I assume, I'm not like Mr. Blocker, he's dealt with contracting a long time, but I assume that they're not trying to gouge us or anything like that for sure, and it's part of our city, and it's that old building is gone. It was gonna sit there doing nothing for years if they probably hadn't did it, because we didn't have the funds that I know of at the time to, maybe we did have the funds get it. But it's a joint project which is gonna help our city. I like the part about the amphitheater and some other possibilities for that. But that was my concern, which I'd like just for my information, so we can tell the citizens, well, the project's probably gonna cost this much, this is our portion of what we're putting into it, but I'm in favor of this right here. That's all, Mr. President.
All right, thank you. Yes, Mr. Cox?
Yeah, just reiterating that we need a clarification letter from the county with estimated project cost, worthwhile project, but we need to see some numbers.
Breakdown. I think transfer of the meeting date had some little hiccup in people's schedules, so I feel that that's maybe why they're couldn't reschedule their time. So,
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Faircloth?
I have a text here from Commissioner Fountain. Should I quote it, read it? It
I'm
concerns.
gonna ask our attorney if that would be proper.
As long as we're all discussing it together and all hearing it together, I
Okay.
don't think that's a problem.
He said the county paid $200,000 for the property, approximately $15,000 cost for demolition. And the CRA has already sent a check for $37,000. Does that answer any questions?
Okay, thank you. I'd like to make a couple comments on that. First of all, when I picked up the master plan this afternoon, this must be like karma or something, I picked it up and it opened up to CRA parking. And it says, this is one of our objectives of the CRA, to purchase or incentivize various land for parking, purchase land for future use, or consolidate properties for investment incentives. And here we are, we have someone partnering with us, taking some of the burden off from us, paying for the initial cost of purchasing the land. So I think it's a gift horse we shouldn't look in the mouth. But I understand, my fellow commissioners are saying they're concerned about the cost. But again, I would reiterate what you said, Teresa, and that is, we're facing the same issue with the dog park. And that is, how do we begin the dog park when we don't know the cost because we don't have the design? And so it's hard for the county commission to tell us we're gonna spend X number of dollars because we don't have a design, and they're asking us for the money to create the design. So I think that's why we don't have the dollar amount. And I'm not opposed to asking those questions, but I think it's certainly within the purview of the CRA to get rid of blight, which the county helped us doing by tearing down the old Piggly Wiggly, and increasing the parking, which not only, it doesn't just benefit the CRA, it benefits the city and the county and a great partnership. So I think it's something that we really need to look at seriously, and I would call on the commissioners here for some kind of a motion, whatever the motion may be, to either go ahead or go ahead after we, or to ask for more clarification from the county, but I would like to see action by the commissioners after Mr. Godfrey speaks. Godney.
Are you ready for a motion?
Yes,
I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and give this county the $65,000.
we have a motion on the floor to support this proposal, $65,000 to the county commissioners. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to go ahead with the disbursement of $65,000 to the county. Any further discussion?
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Hayes.
on that motion, do you think there should be, should he amend his motion to approve the request for the transfer of funds? Since there's insufficient funds in there to cover that this time, they're in another account?
Yes, that
Yes.
would be appropriate.
Or would that be a second motion?
Should be amended.
Or does he want to amend his motion?
Amended for the transfer of funds so that our checking balance.
Okay, how much do you want to transfer?
He's gonna read the correct.
65,000.
Right here it is. There's the motion.
Just 1 minute. Mr.
Okay.
He's gonna restate.
I move to approve the contribution of $65,000 for the Piggly Wiggly transfer of funds to enable a check to be issued.
And then transfer the funds?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. I missed that, okay.
if you enable the check to be issued, then you have to transfer the funds. Because we ain't got enough in there now to do it.
Yeah, okay, I just wanna make sure that was worded that way, and your second stands then to that
Yes, sir,
motion?
Mr. President, if you restate that motion again, so
Yes.
we each have
The
understanding.
motion was to approve the contribution of $65,000 to be used for the Piggly Wiggly parking lot redevelopment project and the transference of funds to enable the check to be issued.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, now we have motion second and open for discussion. I think, Mr. Cox, you're on the podium.
I just want to, I want to be able to say yes, but I can't say that without, we're not in the loop on this.
Nothing.
We don't know what we're saying yes to, other than 65,000 with another indication of another future contribution, which would be a third payment.
You mean dollar away
We're
or the
paying monies and
project?
we're not in the loop at all on this project.
On the project?
We don't have any numbers, any concepts.
We don't have the
anything.
numbers, but we have been in planning meetings for 6 or 8 months now with concerning the planning concepts and designs. Do we have them on paper? No. But city officials have sit and discussed how this project should be done, what it would be done, what avenues that the city wants to appear in there. The green space was one of our specific requests that we wanted. We needed a green space in order to utilize, because in order to spend CRA funds, we would need to provide the parking, and we was going to provide the green place, the green space. We needed those to be included in the project. We have been working with the county for, like I say, for months. We've had several meetings with Mr. Boyles and Ms. Godwin concerning the different aspects it's going to take in order to facilitate an aesthetic development there. And we just don't have it on paper because it takes funds to put it on paper. Now, as far as a monetary listing or a budget, we haven't got far enough to determine all that. we can make it, like I say, we can do a guesstimate, and I will ask for a breakdown of projected cost. But that's all I can do. But we have been in discussion for months.
Any other discussion? Yes, Mr. Blocker.
You said we, clarify who we are has been in discussion. I have not received any information pertaining to any of the y'all's meetings, etc.
Myself, Ms. Smith had been in discussion with Mr. Boyles. We've also discussed this over at Public Services to see the impact if we should, because that is a city roadway and you need permission from our Public Services to touch we asked, would that concept be approvable? Would it be something viable at that particular instance if we utilize it to maintain a dedicated one-way road with the parking? They're awaiting plans in order to be able to approve that, but on the conceptual level, it is genuinely coming together like discussions will. It's as far as having an ability to report anything, we don't really have anything more than a conceptual plan for what we've got. And the diagram of your conceptual plan was attached to the letter that you received in the city council meeting.
I don't recall anything being on that paper except the street, period. Parking lot.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was a parking lot and Beach Street.
But this letter from the county indicates other things. I am not for divvying out spending the CRA's money until we know what we're gonna spend it for. So that, I'll clarify that.
All right, very good. Any other discussion?
Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Hayes.
You know, in previous years, we've utilized some of the funds and some of the funds we haven't used. And you know, we always get back, I always get back to this thing.
Mr. Hayes, you're so
Oh, I'm
far
not
away from the
talking.
mic, you're so
Oh,
far from the mic.
as we know over the years, we've utilized some of the CRA funds, and we know what the CRA funds are for. This project here fits in part of the plan for redeveloping our downtown area. If we were like real skimpy or short on funds, then I might say, okay, you know, we really need to look tight down on this right here. Like I said, I'm sure that Mr. Blocker would know more than me than I would, but I'm sure that it's gonna be triple, quadruple, I don't know, how much is gonna be over this amount of money. So far, if we approve this right here, we're around about $100,000 that we've investment that we've looked at. We don't know what the returns will be on it, and it might be returns that there's no monetary value to us, but the aesthetic value of it to our citizens is what I'm looking at. So if we don't give them $65,000, you know, last night in the meeting, you remember I told you about the Jamaican bobsled person, and the main thing he stressed that still sticks with me was teamwork. So we had to work with the county, because we're going to be asking requests of the county. I'm sure the last 3 years of Peacewood I'm here, I'm going to be asking for a request for the county, and I'm going to be looking for them to honor some of those, maybe one of those requests, because we have to work as partners. I can understand my fellow councilmen being concerned. Like I voiced a concern about that, but I wasn't opposed to it. I just was wondering what's the total project. But even by listening to the figures that he was given from that, how much it's cost to invest just to get that building down and to the point where it is now. You know, one of the previous councils, and I don't want to get the wrong figure, but y'all know better than I do how much they spent on that parking lot up there. By itself, that was just a parking lot. It's not being fully utilized, except by the transportation company, which we don't get any benefits from it. At least I don't. And I don't think most of our citizens do, you know, and they get that for free. But Mr. President and fellow fellow commissioners, we have to think about a partnership. And I'm sure whatever the project's gonna be, it's gonna be a great one. I still would like to hear from the county, but I'm in favor of this, voting for this right now. So that's it, me, Mr. President.
Thank you. Any more discussion? If not, I call for a vote. Do I need to reread the motion? Okay, everybody knows what we're voting on. If we're going to release $65,000 to the county for this project. If you are in favor of doing that, would you indicate so by raising your right hand, please? I see 1, 2, 3, 4. Those opposed? 4 to 2, the motion carries. And we will move on to the Kyle Verna situation.
Okay.
You going to address that, or is the attorney going to address that?
Actually, we received a new email, and it might be best for the
Yeah.
attorney to address that, please.
Yeah, Dr. Leone, would you address that, please?
Chairpersons, I reached out to Mr. Werner last week via telephone and email. I heard from him yesterday. He called me and indicated essentially what is in the letter that you have received and that can be distributed if anyone has not received that. Essentially saying that he has been paying down debt with respect to the Winterfest event from his own pocket for additional expenditures that were not yet paid for, such as the band, sound and lighting, sound engineers, entertainers, photographers, videographers, and others, and the amount of approximately $9,000, and that he's been using his funding that he's received from other avenues to pay those down, that he fully intends to pay back the CRA. As you see in that letter, he has confirmed that in writing, that he, I know that he is a member of the community in Milton. He's the president of the Santa Rosa Historical Society, which is what I anticipated when we first were dealing with him in respect to getting this contract going and having him manage the event for us. Of course, at that time, we thought it was going to be a fundraiser and didn't realize that it was going to actually just cost money. That was something that we just didn't anticipate. However, since that time, Mr. Werner has written a number of times now acknowledging that he owes the money and also acknowledging that he intends to pay it back. So it's in your court right now as to how you want to proceed. He's asking essentially for additional time. Again, if he's being able to pay about $9,000 since the Winterfest, the theory is that he would be taking that type of revenue to pay back the CRA as soon as he has completed paying off these other vendors. And I asked him, what time frame are we looking at? And he said in about a month's time, he should be able to start making payments back to the CRA.
Comments, questions from commissioners?
That would be fine with me. At least we'll be getting something.
Mr. Blocker?
I understand when a person gets in trouble, and he's in trouble, but it's finally a hard matter to accept. He put us on the bottom of the list. But I understand where the obligation and his priorities, I understand that, that's business. But he ought to come up with some kind of a situation here and tell us what his offer can be and what he could do even on a partial of the monthly that he had first agreed to. I'm concerned where we're going to get it at and when.
I understand, and that's why I had asked him when he thought we could start getting payments, and he said that he thought these other vendors would be paid off in full in a month or so, and that at that time he would be able to start paying, as he said, in blocks of hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars, whatever he could put together and pay as consistently as he could back to the CRA. I'm actually happy to report to you that he is communicating to us through me, and it has shown an intent to pay back. I think that that's a positive aspect to this. You certainly can sue for debt we have sufficient evidence to show that he believes that he owed it and that he owes it. But even if you get a judgment, the question is, do you recover on that judgment? So we have someone who's voluntarily saying and acquiescing to paying us, which is a good thing. And I think we just need to keep pushing on him. Now, one thing that you may want to do and might want to pursue is having him sign something a little bit more formal, like a promissory note, so that you have something a little bit, with a little bit more legal teeth to it than just the letters.
Yes, Mr. Hazen next.
Yes, sir, I did get the email and I did read it, and, I can understand the situation that the gentleman's in. I look at it this way, I think he's making an earnest effort to accommodate. If we sued him, it's gonna cost us money, and we still might not get nothing. If you don't have it, you can't give it. I only know the gentleman briefly and heard about him, you know, that he's well known in the community of Milton and what he's done. So I'd be willing to extend the time frame to give him ample time. If we're sitting here next year discussing that, then I'm not going to feel the same way.
I understand.
Mr. Cox, I believe you were next.
Okay, the initial note on this amount owing that was guaranteed was $21,167.24, signed by Kyle Werner on March 27th, 2017. So it's been several months. Did he contact anyone before, Mr. Young, before?
Not to my
Before you
knowledge.
reached out
I
to
don't
him?
know if he spoke with Ms. Smith prior to her. Sometime
Okay,
between,
'cause-
the first payment was supposed to be April 28th, so we did give him, at that time, some time in order to begin making payments. And I don't know if she spoke with him or not. I wasn't aware that he wasn't making payments until just recently myself, and so I just recently reached out to him.
One more point. You suggested a promissory note, and I would be for that, a little better note. And I was going to say, he doesn't state when he will begin payments, but you mentioned that.
He did.
But, you know, so far we haven't seen anything.
Right.
So I would be more in favor of a stronger note on this debt. That's all I have.
I have a couple of comments on it. First of all, if you think back to when he came and made the proposal to us, I asked him how he could in the contract guarantee that he wasn't gonna lose any money, and he said, I've been doing this and been in the business over 20 years, and I've never lost money. So it was a complete shockwave to him to walk away and lose that kind of money, $21,000, $12,000 of our money, $9,000, whatever it was, out of his own pocket, which I'm sure he didn't intentionally want to lose $9,000 out of his own pocket. So he really got in over his head without realizing it. The only question I would have is the same that Mr. Cox had, and that is, I don't know if he did reach out, but I think it would have been incumbent upon him. Once he realized he was in trouble paying us back, he should have notified us and said, sorry, but I really have to pay these people right away or I'm gonna go out of business.
Right.
And you guys will just have to wait a little bit longer. So I don't know if he did that or not, but I'm willing to work with him because right now we have nothing. And if we don't work with him, if we work with him, we might get something, so. Yes, Mr. Fairclough.
I'm definitely in favor of getting a promissory note. And I think we ought to take this as an expensive lesson learned, and next time we do something like this, get a cash bond.
Okay. Will you negotiate that promissory note?
Yes,
Dr. Lynn? Thank you.
Okay, that was gonna be my request.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, can we move on to The puppy park.
Okay. This was simply an update, mainly from Mr. Steele on the dog park and the FERDAP grant update. I won't read it verbatim. The priority was, in order to get plans for the design of the dog park, in order to determine cost. They had a difficult time reaching the architect, Mr. Whitman, Wickman, who was to design it pro bono. He's not an architect?
No,
I'm
he's a
sorry.
landscaper.
A landscaper?
Yes.
I'm sorry,
They
I'm
just-
just taking what
Okay.
Mr.
Double
Mr.
update for that. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, this is Mr. Steele's update, and I'm sure he provided it to you.
No,
and-
he did not.
Oh. Well, he said that he had tried to attempt, and it was until March 6th, and then his response was that Mr. Wickman was too busy to provide the services that was needed. Public Services then reached out to consulting firms and requested if any of them had the ability and the time available to provide pro bono planning services for the dog park. The ones that were mentioned were Daggs and Callie and Company. Both declined the ability to provide the services pro bono at this time. Public Services then reached out to Seaside Engineering, which is a local firm that's under the city contract. They also list Callie and Company as a subcontractor to provide landscaping architecture services, and they requested that a task order be provided to show the cost of landscaping, design, and architecture for the dog park. I think back and forth they went several times in order to tweak it as low as they could get it. And the task order that was issued on May 22nd in the amount of $8,800, it was actually attached for your review. The Public Services doesn't have any funds in this year's budget or next year's in order to provide the dog park funding. The FERDAP grants, the update of that, the first $50,000 grant, all of that funding was allotted to the children's park upgrade. The second $50,000 grant only included $1,500 for the dog park. And the rest of it was allotted out to tennis court upgrades and additional playground equipment for the walking track. For those of you that know how FERDAP grants work, they're on a point system, and you get so many points for each attribute that you have a need for, and those points have to add to a certain total. That's the reason, and that's the process of how you request funds for what particular object. Obviously, the dog park would not have given us enough points in order to secure the entire grant, which is the reason for only the $1,500 being able to be included in that. We have not received the commencement letter for either grant yet. The boundary surveys from C's were received on March 20th. They have been sent to our city attorney, Mr. Hawley. First week of April, Mr. Hawley forwarded the surveys for a title search request, which is a FERDAP requirement, to First National Land Title for preparation. And on June 26th, when the update was requested, Mr. Hawley had stated that he had gotten information for the first grant, but still had not received the complete title work for the property for the second grant, but thought that it would be fairly soon. And that's kind of where we are. Ms. Myers may have some more information.
Well, I want to see if anybody has
Okay.
any questions here, because I certainly do. Yeah, go ahead, Ms. Fairclough.
What happened to the private donor that was gonna,
The money is still in our account.
Yeah, that's,
I'll give you an update.
we really can't have conversations out of the audience. We either have to call you up or wait until we call you up.
That,
Well, that's my question.
Okay, we'll wait till Ms. Myers comes up then. Mr. Godney?
I also have some questions. You know, this has been lingering on, for months after months after months. And I have, pardon me, I got a cold. I have two engineers. One was with the city of Craigview, Mike Wing. Okay? And I got another engineer that I'm gonna talk to do this pro bono for the city of Craigview.
Okay, if you remember, I asked you to contact Mike to see if he would do that.
Mike is not a design engineer. He cannot sign and seal the product.
You gotta be a design engineer.
You have to be able to certify and sign and seal the topography improvements on the park. And that takes a civil engineer. He would be happy to help us with this, but however, he does not have that qualification.
I got one more then.
Yeah, go ahead, you have the floor. What was it?
That's it.
Oh, okay, my bad. I have a couple of things. I want to show of hands, who else in here believed when we applied for that $50,000 dog park grant that was going to the dog park? I mean, I believe that. I'm the only one to believe that? No. It was only in the last couple of months that I found out, only $1,500 of that grant can be used on the dog park.
True.
Well, we were told the grant was for the dog park. And I was flabbergasted when I found out, no, only $1,500 can be used in a dog park.
I'm sorry, I don't know who would have indicated that it was for the dog park.
The individual who applied for it.
The $50,000 had to be filled out by Public Services. Public Services would have chosen the attributes necessary, working with the grantsmith in order to
I understand that, Tricia.
facilitate.
What I'm telling you is our CRA director
Oh,
told us that she was applying for $50,000 dog park grant. And I believe that's what we were getting it for. And the other one was for the children's equipment. I believe that all the way along.
okay.
I don't think I was the only one to believe that. But anyway, what we really need to do, and Mr. Gandhi hit it right on the head, this is the same update we heard back in April and we heard back in February. We've got people, now let me finish now, Teresa. We've got people now, especially an individual who has $62,000 invested, that's got to be sitting back thinking, I gave you guys this money and nothing's happening. Well, we've got to do something. And if we have to pay for the design, what we have to do, we've got money and we've got to promise to the people to do a dog park, and we've got to do something.
I agree.
I agree.
Okay, so what are we going to do?
Let's get us an engineer, Mr. President.
All right.
I think we should, we have funds in the CRA, it's for the CRA project, if I'm correct. Let's go ahead and utilize the funds, whatever it costs to a reasonable amount.
The current task order to prepare the services that we secured on May 22nd is $8,800.
It went
That
up- it
is
went up after
certified
that.
880.
It went up after
800.
that. He sent an email, I don't think you have it on it. He sent it to Mr. Steele saying they had reassessed it, and it was $9,200 and something dollars.
Right.
Still,
You remember seeing that? Yeah, but I'm just saying.
I wasn't privy to this. When I asked for the update, this is what I was given.
Okay.
And I asked for the update a week ago.
Yeah, I'm just saying that there was another email where they reconsidered their design and raised the price. And also the second thing, on the title search, that has been completed. Last
I
time I
was,
checked Mr. Hawley, it has been completed now.
well, when I checked, it was still out there.
When did you check?
When I checked with Mr. Steele, it was still not done, on June 26th.
It was after that, I called Mr. Hawley and said, what do we need to do to move this along? And he said he contacted them, and they had it completed, sitting in their office, and never notified anybody. So it should be done.
Okay.
Mr. President,
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm getting excited.
I just want to stress, I agree totally with what you said. We got to do something. You know, we we sit on this person's money, and a thought just hit me. Well, what if somebody else wants to give some money? How long is the city gonna sit on it? And that's something we have to think about. If we're looking for people and appreciate their donations, you know, we don't want to do it. Well, I'm not gonna go that route, but we want them at least to see it. So we mess around, hold the money, and you know, and they're gone on. And I feel bad about that. I feel bad for our citizens that we've been talking about this. I know for 2 years, maybe longer than that, Mr. President. But let's go ahead and invest the money and get the dog park started. Whatever it comes within reason.
Before I call anybody else, I'd like April to come up so she could answer Mr. Fairclaw's question. You mind, April? I didn't think you would.
I'm April Meyer, the chairperson for the dog park, just for the record. I just want to give you an update. I contacted a group that used to be our BNI, or Business Networking International group, here in Crestview. They dissolved that particular group, and they're now called CPO or CPA or something like that. So they connected me with a architectural firm that actually is a commercial architectural firm that does military projects. And they are in the state of Florida. They do have architects. So I have a person who is going to be working on that. They're going to give me a cost estimate for that. I would suspect, because it's being done by a friend, so my guess that the cost is not going to be that much. As far as the dog park goes, the problem lies that not with the design of the dog park. We have to have a site plan, and that's what we need at this point, is the site plan. The survey, I was told originally, back in October, that particular portion was already done.
The topo.
The topo
Yeah,
was already done.
Right.
Only to find out that that's not the case, that it wasn't finalized or whatever, it had to be done. I guess, isn't that what you just said? June.
June's when Mr. Hobbs.
Yeah, when the topo was finalized. I got a copy of the topo for the park from Teresa, so I have forwarded all of the information now to this group. The person I'm working with is Crystal Weatherington, and the name of the corporation is Dewberry. So Dewberry does military contracts mostly, so they're kind of doing this as a favor for us, for the city. And they can stamp any kind of commercial project, which I would assume that the dog park would be a commercial project and would take an engineer that has to draw the blueprint for that park. As far as most of the stuff for the park, the fencing, that was done on a proposal with an estimate with installation. We also have the cost of the equipment and parts of the pavilion. I also have a builder who will build it for us. I have somebody who will donate sod for us. I have somebody who will donate the soil. I just need that blueprint because I need to know how much materials that we need for that.
Is that EPA certified soil? You know how it has to be able to drain the urine and all that kind of stuff?
That actually, I called the EPA on that, and I have documentation for that. There is no real problem. What you have right now is you're draining Highway 90 with gas and oil on a main thoroughfare that goes right into our water system anyway, into the ponds.
So what's a little urine?
Dog pee,
Yeah, so it's a little urine.
you're not going to have like buckets of dog pee. And I was told by a representative at EPA that you only need to put 2 inches of crushed limestone on the leading edge of that, and that's what they'll draw in the plan for that. So, but I will tell you this, the donor did come and talk to me, has talked to me multiple times, and he said if that this dog park does not get done soon, I have been approached by somebody who is going to donate the piece of property for it, and it will no longer be a city park. So, I'm trying to keep him, to have him understand what has happened and where we're at so that we can keep it as a city park. I would love to see this as a city park and not a private park.
Well, us too.
Okay? So, whatever we need to do, we need to get it done and move it forward. That's all I ask. So I'm waiting. I should have response from this person before the end of the week.
Ms. Faircloth.
And the private donor we had, is that money already given and just being held?
It's being held currently in the Main Street Crestview Association Fund. It is not drawing interest, and all the money that we have raised for that, which is over $65,000, is sitting there. Now, Main Street Crestview Association, with that money just sitting there, that money has to go back out because otherwise it's going to cost us on tax for that. We can't just hold that kind of money year after year after year without showing something going out. Am I correct?
Could it
So-
not have been transferred to the CRA account?
We were not transferring it to the CRA account because the donor did not want to have his money just transferred into the CRA account because he wants to make sure the dog park gets built and that the funds don't go out for something else. So, and not only that, the easiest way, I was told by the city, by Mr. Steele, to get a dog park done is if another entity, MSCA, which we are part of the CRA in some aspect, it's easier, it doesn't have to go for the bid processes, it doesn't have to do all that if we are getting the vendors to put the stuff in.
Okay. Ms. Faircloth.
This just boggles my mind.
Me too.
I have some property that's in the county. My wife had horses. She wanted an Olympic dressage ring. I got on my Kubota tractor with a front bucket and a box blade, and in 6 weeks I had her a dressage, Olympic-sized dressage ring built, complete with drainage and concrete block retainer wall 5 feet high and everything else. I can go out there to Twin Hills Park with my tractor and box blade and build.
You're not on public property, sir. I'm not being disrespectful, but on private property, things are a little bit different than they are with the
I got
city.
permission from the DEP and the EPA and the Northwest Florida Water Management District, and permits for excavation from the county.
Believe me, if tomorrow, if I put a thing out on that Facebook page, on the Crestview Bark Park page, and said, look, I need somebody with a tractor and a thing and there would be a line of 50 people. Do you realize how many times a day I'm getting asked about the dog park? It's ridiculous.
And that's what we're really
People
inclined
want
to.
this dog park.
We all do. Mr. Gordon, you had your hand up one time. I'll get you.
I'm just tired of waiting on this. Let's go ahead and hard the farm, give them the money. At least I told you this before. Build a man a sign down there that telling him he don't go ahead and get a dog park. You have the money for that. And get it over with.
For what?
For a sign down there telling him he's don't get a dog park down there.
That should come from the CRA, not from the donation.
Dog park.
Because, and you have to put a sign there. If you use any of that money that you have from that grant, you have to put a sign there. It has to be a public notice sign. So that
Don't
it won't come from that.
How much money did he give you?
62,000.
And you can't build him a sign out of that money? No?
No, because that money should come from the CRA, because you have $1,500 sitting there.
Oh, we haven't give that to you yet?
No, sir.
It hasn't been approved yet.
Yeah, the money has not
We don't
flowed
have a
from the state
commitment
yet.
made on that yet. We're still waiting for that. And you can't get it until you get the site plan.
Nope.
Mr. Cox is next.
Yeah, I think we need to go back to managing by objectives, and I thought we were deficient, according to Public Services, item 2B, 3I, task order, $8,800, not budget. And Commissioner Witten said that's been revised to 9,200. Why don't we take care of that item?
What is that
Uh,
item for, though? That was just for a topo?
Site plan in April.
Site plan. And so I would be ready to
Landscape
make a
design?
motion to take care of that.
But that's-
So, and it looks just like the picture?
That's who April is working with now to do that. That's-
Because I can tell you,
I think we're making this too difficult.
Agreed.
Yeah.
does it look like the concept picture? The site plan, I don't know what it looks like.
Money.
That's the funding
Mr.
in order to
President.
have the
Okay.
person produce what you want.
Okay,
That's only the money to hire her,
okay,
and then she would have facilitate your design.
okay.
Mr. Hayes,
Yes, sir, Mr. President, and I appreciate the info that you got. I wish I'd have got it earlier, but, somewhere along the line, we've, miscommunication somewhere. Somebody's being left out of the loop, and since we're the CRA, board, I think we're being left out. My question is, and I don't even know who to ask, I guess, Ms. Teresa, who's in charge of this? Is it the Main Street? Is it the CRA? Right now, I don't really know.
The dog park was a CRA,
project.
project. It was brought before the CRA in order to do that. Now, the CRA could not fund the construction of the project. They can however, help with, I guess, the plan and the design, which is kind of what the cities, for the FERDAP grants were actually, I think was supposed to cover their initial plan. But however, the FERDAP grants were actually delayed because we had to have title shown for the city property, which took an extended amount of time in order to produce. So this was actually given over to Public Services to facilitate the planning and the securing of a site plan, the topo. The CRA had actually done a survey of the Twin Hills portion area when we were doing the Crestview Junction plan. You had allowed the initiation of C's to actually perform a survey of that complete area that was to the west of Hathaway. And that's where we found that there were title problems and boundary problems. It is that initial survey. That's the reason they were contracted with C's to initiate getting the boundary survey that would be necessary for these FERDAP grants and for the dog park. And they would have been sent to Public Services, and it was my understanding that they were going to try to do it in-house. That was with your other CR director and Public Services negotiating with what's going and what's being done. The report was only that it was being worked on, that it was at this level, that they didn't have the title work finished, that procedure. So, yes, Public Services was supposed to handle this, but they could not reach the person that was supposed to do the site work, Mr. Wickman. They have no ability to sign and seal those in-house, so they reached out the best they could do to anybody for pro bono work while they were awaiting the title report. So the title report's over here hanging, and it extended, and like I say, as of June 26th, we didn't have the title policy in hand. Since it's just appeared, and when I talked with Mr. Steele just a few days ago, just at the June 26th level, he told me that the task order from May 22nd was the reduction in price for what was $8,800 was the reduction in price of what they had originally bid for Cali and Company to do the landscape architectural type plan for the project. And that's what I know about it.
Mr. Cox, and then I'll get Mr. Cox.
I'm prepared to make a motion.
She's on, she wouldn't do it pro bono, but she will do it for payment. She couldn't do pro bono. I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead, you have the floor.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve CRA funding for the dog park site plan for an amount not to exceed $10,000, monies to public services.
I second.
What was that about public services, I think?
Well, that's where the money's, it's, public service doesn't have the funds, I'd like for us to provide that, to do that. That
Okay,
seems
for them
to be one
sign
of
the
the,
contract with Atkins, or whoever.
don't think this involves Atkins.
Yeah, that's
That-
who did the
Well,
school.
okay. But
It's under Seaside Engineering.
Hmm?
Seaside, it's under Seaside Engineering.
Oh, was
It's
it?
contract, not Atkins.
All
that's
right, my bad.
appropriate use of funds.
Okay, so there's a motion that we will spend up, the CRA will authorize up to $10,000 to public services to sign the contract for the site plan for the dog park. Do I have a second?
I second it.
He's
Okay,
second.
we have a motion second. Any discussion, further discussion?
I got another discussion.
Go ahead, Mr. Gladney.
I would still like to put a sign down there. We can put a sign down there that says future home. We don't, and that's all it has to say. We got one over here on Railroad Junction now. We can do that without a site plan design.
Right, we couldn't, so you are requesting that the CRA goes forward with initiating the posting of a sign for a statement of future home of the Bark Park?
Mr. President, point of order.
Sure, who does it, where Main Street does it, CRA does it, or?
Back under control here. Mr. Hayes, what's your point of order?
My point of order is this is not related to our motion at the present time. If we can carry the motion or go on with the motion and then
Good point, I
address
approve
other
that.
items.
We have to stay on the we have a motion second. Discussion has to be isolated to that motion second.
Okay.
Any discussion on the motion and second?
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Blocker.
point for information on our discussion period. I want to go back. I wanted someone here today to clarify and bring us up to date. Back in 2014, 2015, 2016, we had projects for the CRA prioritized. The number one priority was our depot. Now it's been bumped. Now we're in the third one down the dog park. Why are we being bumped, and where do we stand on the depot status prior to giving out money for something that we don't have allocated at this time?
Point of order.
Well, again,
I could go 4 years there.
you're off topic there, though, when you talk about the depot. Any other discussion on the motion? Okay, I call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Those opposed to it? Okay, we had 5, 4, and 1 opposed. So we will authorize up to $10,000 for public services to contract with someone to do the site plan. Now, if you have, now, Mr. Blocker, if you want to ask a question, you can do
Now,
that.
let me ask that question, Mr. President.
Yes, go
I
ahead.
got
Mr.
the floor.
Blocker. Yes, you do.
Ms. Teresa?
Yes, sir.
Are you acting as the supervisor for CRA director, or can you give us an answer, or who may I address my question to?
Sir, I'm the only person left standing. I will attempt to get you an answer. If I don't have an answer, I will research it.
I know you will. Where do we stand? I have been asked numerous times the last weeks and months, where do we stand, period, on from day one to today on the depot status?
I'll have to research that, sir. But I do know that the property where we wanted the depot, we didn't have title insurance
I
on
know
it.
that too.
But hey, city may own it now.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Faircloth.
I believe that Florida has pretty much been taken off of the Amtrak route. And I think we received word not too long ago that Crestview will not be a stop if they do come through Florida.
The mayor attended those meetings and he left, so I.
Well, I went with him to Mariana,
I was there
Oh,
also.
okay. All right.
and at that time, they told us that the presence of a depot would carry a lot of weight in whether or not they decided to make a stop. But Congress didn't fund it, didn't fund the route down here. And so there's no need for a depot if we're not gonna have a train.
Mr. Blocker?
But they referred it to a committee. It's still in the system.
We've been to numerous of those, of the different meetings across Florida and Alabama concerning the train. However, for the depot, one of the suggestions that would have been illuminated in your new current plan is that at that point in time, we did not know about the land, would be to consider another option of a different location and put a small or a building that would be our depot until such time as we had a large enough area that we can facilitate a recreation of the depot. It needs to be self-sustaining, which would mean that you would need some type of activity within that depot. It had been suggested, if it were going to be in the location there north by the park, that it would actually house sort of a library annex, a small Main Street office type facility, and actually a restaurant that would protrude from the front. From the front, you would have your depot face, but to the rear, you would have an extended seating of a depot restaurant, which would allow for dining in that particular area. As a matter of fact, that seemed very advantageous. We actually had a chef come from New Orleans to list out the criteria that you would need for that type of facility, what type of area you would have to service, and what you would have to, your income you would have to have in order to maintain the entire building facility with the income from the restaurant, which means when CRA sunset out, that depot would be self-sustaining by producing an income of its own.
Teresa, I think we need to address the whole depot issue in depth. later
Okay, I
on.
will.
I think the real answer to Mr. Blocker's question is that the priority of the dog park shot up when we had the potential of losing the money. So maybe it should have been number one, but kind of floated up to the top, because are we going to lose the money or are we going to do something about it? And we need to do something about it. So I think that's what probably shut the priority up, Mr. Blocker. Let's move on to the revision of the facade grant application and approval process.
Okay, I will complete your research, Mr. Blocker. On your facade grant, there is one that was actually listed in the file. This facade grant hasn't been updated since your 2015 CRA plan, and there's some copies of it facilitating out there that it was updated in 2013, but I can find no evidence that it was ever adopted by the board in 2013. So I think we need to clarify it to work in conjunction with our 2015 plan, which will translate over into the 2017 plan. We have some members, as they're coming up doing renovations down Main Street, that would like to utilize this. And the existing process is labor intensive and requires several months in order to facilitate the application, the meetings, and most people simply give up and quit, so therefore they don't ever receive any portion of the grant. It's a $10,000 matching grant, up to $10,000. It doesn't mean that you have to do the entire $10,000. If you have $10,000 worth of work you wanted to do on your facade, you could apply for $5,000 and match it with $5,000. Produce your documents to me there. We would just like to update it so that it would run with your current 2015 plan, so it could be legally processed.
Yeah, well, go ahead and update it and bring it to our next meeting,
Okay.
and we'll look at it. Mr. President. Yes, Mr. Fairclough.
I think while we're updating it, it should also include the definition for a facade.
Yes, sir.
Indeed.
We need, and as you see in the second, it's also to begin implementing to draft policies and applications that will go along with your 2017. Definitions is, as you found with your comprehensive plan on the council level, is one of the most vital components you can have. The minute the state pulled our definitions, our comp plan was an urgent situation, and that's why it had to come before you urgently as the city council.
If we're going to limit it to $10,000 matching, then if we get an application for $50,000, we'd ought to just go right in the trash.
They can receive $10,000 of it.
And they'll let them apply for $10,000 and not $50,000.
Well, they may be proving the cost of their complete site. It's not clear in
Well,
that granting.
He didn't, when he submitted that application, he didn't understand that it was for a facade. He wanted us to rebuild his building. If you remember reading it, it said $15,000 to repaint the entire building.
Sir,
That's not a facade.
I didn't see that because it did not process. There is a process for a facade grant. It goes before the grant board, which at this point in time, you're missing a couple of people. Your director being one, and the representative from Main Street being the other. In correction of the facade grant itself, it needs to actually, when they apply for that, they need to be educated that it will go before a board. It goes before a review board.
That's right, and that's what should be explained with the instructions for the application.
Exactly.
I don't think it
Exactly.
was handled correctly the last time. It's
I-
a problem.
I don't think
Really?
it did not go through process, and it was sort of a last-minute surprise, so it didn't. So that's why we need to update and put in some specifics, rules, and regulations.
All right, Teresa, move on to the director position, please.
Okay, our responses for the qualification for the director position was Carol Leone, our CRA attorney, and Elisa Burleson. They were thoroughly vetted this afternoon by the vet. And
How many people on the vetting committee?
we have,
You don't have to name on, just how many.
there is a total of 4,
Four.
and I'm mostly the overseer, so we have 3 actual voting members there.
Mr. Chair, would you like me to remain, or would you like me to leave while you discuss this, whatever your preference is?
We also have,
Whenever we've done these in the past, when we selected Mr. Fairclough, we had people remain in the room. We're not going to hurt you. In fact, it was my thought, and I talked to Teresa about this, that they did this, obviously, we had the resumes available to us. They did a screening process interview, and they're going to make a recommendation. But I thought that it would be incumbent upon us, if we had any questions, or comments or whatever, that having both individuals here would be beneficial to all of us, to be able to ask them any questions we might have. So I would like them to stay in the room. So would you like to tell us what y'all recommended?
the committee there recommended Miss Ali. I'm going to just call you Lisa. We're going to call Lisa. It's Elisa Burleson to be the director, to represent the CRA. Although they dearly loved Miss Leone.
What I would ask is that if any member here would like to pose any questions to either one of the people, that we feel free to do, we'll call you up. Yes, Mr. Walker.
I would like for the can I say candidates,
Yeah, you can say that. You got no
come
offense.
before us and give us a little presentation.
Absolutely.
Starting with
Ms. Ms. Burleson, you got the flip.
Well, good evening. It's an honor to be here and standing before y'all. I have moved to Crestview recently, and I have fallen in love with Crestview. Previously did work for a city and municipality as a director of a department and increased the department's activities. My whole life has been a career of various positions that I believe has led me to what I'm looking for now. I did go to South Alabama. I have a degree in tourism and commercial recreation, and I've developed experience through hotel management, park and rec development, and senior citizens senior development. I've worked for the city of Irondale, which, if y'all are not familiar with Irondale, if you know Fannie Flagg and the movie Fried Green Tomatoes, that's Irondale. And it's up in the Birmingham area. We moved down here to be with family and very love the city, have fallen in love with it. And I've got so much to offer. I am a visionary, and I'm a passionate visionary. And I'm looking forward to bringing my passion, my vision to this beautiful city and working with y'all. I'm a team player, and my viewpoint is I'm here to do what y'all want me to do and in the manner y'all want me to do it. I'm at your service. And if y'all choose to pick me, I promise you, you will not regret your decision. I'm sure both of us are highly qualified. I have no doubt in that. And I think either one of us would be fine. I just am honored that I'm even made it to this point. And I'm looking forward to the possibility of working with y'all in any capacity y'all would have me work. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Mr. Glenn? Go ahead and get it.
When I first started this, we asked for a salary response on your resume. Did you do that?
A salary?
Yeah. Yes, I did.
We requested for a request for qualifications.
Right.
Those do not allow a salary,
Right.
response on it.
That's something we will negotiate once we decide on an individual.
Right.
Same thing we did with Ms. Smith. Mr. Fairclough.
I'm sorry. I spoke.
Oh, no, you're fine.
Thank you for submitting
Thank
your information. We have about 16 empty retail spaces within the CRA district. What would you do to fill those empty spaces?
As I was telling the advisory committee earlier, I'm a very creative person, and I would look at each individual place. I'm an artistic person. I like art and creativity in all manners. And each facility, each place, Blythe as you would call it, it's its own individual little canvas. And I would love to look at them, and that's where I get my inspiration. First is looking at them and seeing what's out there. I'm a firm believer that seeing what works in other communities and what has brought things that work in other communities and feed off that. I mean, and also our inspiration and seeing what y'all want, seeing what I see. I could give you several ideas, but if it's not what y'all want, if it's not the community wants, then it's just me throwing out things in the air. I could give you several ideas. One, and actually, when y'all were talking about the Piggly Wiggly parking lot and about an artistic wall and a sitting area, I was actually thinking about that 2 days ago, about how it'd be nice to use some of these parking lots. At least one of them is a good little cafe sitting area near a restaurant with an artistic wall that the artists get to do their expression, repaint it once a year and let some more come, and they can actually pay for their art spot on the wall. There's several things you can do, but each spot has its own calling. And there's several things that could be done. The YMCA, that vacant YMCA, I would love to see something done with that, maybe on an educational level, to bringing in some things that I haven't been in it to see it. So I've got to see things and ponder and look over it, and then see what y'all want, what the master plan has come up with that y'all want, and go from there. I don't know if I can't really actually give you 100% specifics, because I need to look at them and see where we go from there.
You still have the floor.
maybe I should have elaborated a little bit
Okay.
on my question. The question was, we have about 16 empty retail spaces.
Yes, sir.
Painting pretty pictures on the front door isn't going to
No,
put a
no.
business in it. I'm wondering what you can do to put businesses,
Oh, put
retail
business. Okay, I'm sorry.
businesses in those spaces.
Apology, I didn't understand that position. One thing, and I don't know if y'all have heard, of course, you'd reach out to the retail community and go to the community municipalities and see what is needing to come in. It's not what's being serviced in our area. Find businesses that are hunting for things. And I know Hobby Lobby is a little bit too big for what y'all are looking for, but I know Hobby Lobby they're growing things. There's new coffee companies. Of course, I don't want to say that for the coffee gentleman in the room, but there's new coffee companies coming up, and there's also a thing that's called. Of course, now my mind's gone blank since I'm sitting here talking to you, but
I've been
pop-up
there.
pop-up businesses. And one thing that has worked in a lot of things that's coming into the communities is you'll have one retail spot, and each month a different business gets to come in and do a pop-up business and promote their products. And then if it works and if it goes, then they will say, well, okay, this is great. I got a great response. I want to rent this building over here that's vacant. So you could have one building that's just is specifically used for pop-up businesses and people that would love to have the opportunity to open up a retail shop, but they just don't have the funds to just 100% jump into it. They'd like to do a trial and error. That's one thing that would work. And just seeing what businesses are out there that are new and up and coming, that are different, that are not in this area, that are maybe working out west, that's growing, and they'd be interested in us down here. Anything in the art, restaurant, food, retail, you look for everything you can find and expose all resources and go for it. Like I said, there's always stuff out there, and businesses hunting for places.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Mr. Blocker?
One thing that I lacked,
Thank you.
I happened to talk to the mayor in Orangedale,
You did?
and the mayor, and also in Leeds.
Oh, yeah.
That lady is a visionary. That was enough said.
Thank you.
Mr. Cox, you had some comments, questions?
Yes, thank you for your application and your interest. One question, do you have any CRA certifications?
No, I do not. I don't have paper that says I know what I'm doing. I just have experience.
That's it.
Sorry. I didn't mean that as an arrogant, cocky answer, but it just recently, my position in Irondale, I worked for they were called the CDA, the Community Development Authority, and when they pulled me in with my experience that I have and told me, we want you in here with your vision, because I caught on real quick, I'm a big visionary, and just help us. Well, that being part of that, my job and my volunteer services in Leeds and in Irondale, their communities are right next to each other. They that drew my passion for community development. I was mainly in hospitality or sports and rec. That was my big thing, and it expanded more to the whole community. So no, my degree is in tourism and commercial recreation, with an emphasis on tourism and hotel management. But my life experience has brought all of it together that the community could benefit from.
Yes, Mr. Gardner?
Have you ever applied for any grants or anything?
I applied, in Irondale, we had a grant writer, and she wrote a grant, and it was about 2 paragraphs. And I read the grant, and I was like, oh, no, I know. So I got on the phone, and I called everybody that was involved in the decision-making of that grant, and I petitioned them to come to my facility and talk to and see what we've got. I sent them pictures. I've talked to them. The director of the Jefferson County Community and Economic Development, he came to the senior center that I was director of, and they had recently just added on an extension to the building. And within 5 years, you're not supposed to get another grant from the community development. And I petitioned them, and I talked to them, and they even went to the state and used my center as an example for how senior centers should be ran, and I was very honored in that. And they, with my petitioning to the Jefferson County Commissioner and the Director of the Community Development for Jefferson County in Alabama, they gave us the grant and asked me what my dream was and had me talk to all the engineers. She wrote the grant, and I don't want to sound egotistical, but I would have never written a 2-paragraph grant, and 2-paragraph grants do not get you anything. And it's who you know and how much you're willing to fight for it that gets you what you want. And I fought for the grant, and we did get, oh my gosh, I forgot how much. It was about, I think, $47,000 for additions to the building that we weren't supposed to get anyway for another 3 years. When there's a will, there's a way to get what you want.
I have one last question for you, Ms. Carlson, and that is, could you tell me what you see as a relationship between growth management, CRA, and the Main Street Association?
A team. And I don't mean that of course it's a team. But the way I look at things is I'm a sports nut. I love baseball. And when you get a team together like for baseball, you have to have all the right people in all the right positions, or you're not going to win anything. I'm not going to put a left fielder as a catcher on that team because he's a left fielder. That's what he does. That's what he's supposed to do. So you've got all these different committees, and they're specialized in that area. And if the team works together with their specialties that they're good at, then everything gets done. There no infighting, no arguing, but you work together. You know, there's always a solution to every problem. Communication is key, 100% key, and you have to know where everybody stands. And I'm a big promoter of being a team and being a positive player on that team. And everybody needs to be a positive players. And all the communities and all the people, the whole community in general, plus the individual committees, we're going to have to work together to get things done, and on a positive note. If there's a problem, there's always a good solution without bickering and arguing. It's just find a solution, work together, and go for it.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
At this point, I'd like, you may be seated. Thank you so much for applying.
Thank you. I
And
appreciate the
Dr. Leone,
opportunity.
if you would come up to the hot seat. Not that you've never been there before, but
Members of the board. Carol Leone, I began redevelopment in San Diego some years ago. I think it was 2005, where I had an opportunity to work as the deputy city attorney for the redevelopment unit in San Diego. And that's where I cut my teeth, learned about redevelopment, how it worked with developers and the redevelopment staff there to advise them with respect to the legal aspects of redevelopment and just all the various natures of it, speaking with the city and the board with respect to the projects, guiding with respect to all the different aspects of redevelopment, focusing on the legal aspect, but also putting out RFQs, RFPs, those types of things, working with developers, doing contracts, the various things that go along with projects. After San Diego, we moved to Florida, and I came out. I worked for a short time with the Department of Revenue here in Crestview, and then I had an opportunity to work for a firm that was centered in LA and actually was starting up a redevelopment firm here in Florida. So I was advising redevelopment agencies in California at that time, which actually redevelopment was dissolved in California, you may be aware, and so they were actually successor agencies that we were advising, and at the same time trying to put our services out there for Florida redevelopment agencies. I studied with the Florida Redevelopment Association Academy, got my certification to learn the differences between the rules here and there and the different aspects of Florida redevelopment statutes, which is important to know. And of course, my focus has always been on the legal aspect of redevelopment, studying the statutes, things that you can and cannot do as a redevelopment agency, the distinction between the city and the agency, because I think oftentimes these are things that are confused, and naturally so. Our board is very similar, and there's a lot of similarities, but they're definitely different entities that have different functions, which sometimes overlap. So I met Ms. Smith at the Redevelopment Agent Association annual conference, giving a presentation at one of those conferences, and she came up to me afterwards and told me that she would be interested in having me advise your CRA, and that's basically how I got the connection with Crestview. And as you know, I've been serving as your attorney for over a year. So and I knew that when the position came up, that it was very important for you to have a director. I didn't want to see the position go vacant for any longer than necessary, and so yes, I responded. It's a bit tricky if I'm the attorney and the director, but I looked into whether that's a conflict of interest. That's defined as if you have two different interests, and in my opinion, working as the attorney for the agency has the same interest as the director for the agency. There'd be very few times, if any, that I would have a different focus or desire from one entity to the other, from one role to the other. That having been said, the only possible discrepancy or conflict would be if somehow as an attorney I would give myself more work as a director. It's a very convoluted, even crazy scenario, but just trying to think of like the worst possible scenario, and I really couldn't come up with one. So I responded. I think that it's important for you. I have, because I've been your attorney, I know where you're at. I know that you've got a new redevelopment plan coming out, which I think is great. That, of course, is your blueprint. That's how you're going to figure out. I know that it's very important to all of you to get projects done, as it should be. Ms. Smith has been focusing on getting plans done, having studies done, and those things are all important and they're necessary, but we're there. We've gotten those done, and now we have a blueprint to move forward with the projects that everyone is so anxious to get going on. So it's really a great and exciting time. You've got new leadership coming in, and I just think it will be very good for Crestview to get the ball rolling. You know, the whole idea of redevelopment is to expend some public funds, increase the property values by eliminating or minimizing blight, and then taking that increase in property value and keeping the ball rolling, taking that TIF and having new projects done. So, and then in the meanwhile, you can do smaller projects that may not generate money, but it will generate interest, it will be beneficial for the community, and that's the whole idea of redevelopment. That's why I'm here, why I'm helping, and I hope that things continue to go well and grow for Crestview Redevelopment Agency.
Thank you, Doctor. No question. Mr. Faircloth, go ahead.
What is the, is your practice diverse? Do you handle divorces and civil suits, and or you do any trial work? Tell us about that.
That's a very excellent question, and I really have focused solely on redevelopment. I've tried to have other cities, and currently I have very few other clients, and I would not have, if I were to take this position, Crestview would be my sole focus, and nothing, I would have no other clients. I really couldn't. I think it would be unfair to have a division of loyalties or have my time split if I were to take this position.
That was my next question. Are you going to be able to sit in the CRA office as the CRA director and leave your hat locked in another room, your lawyer hat locked in another room? Or are you going to accept calls from friends or people and do a little law work on the side?
No, absolutely.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but that actually, in my opinion, would be unethical. I would not, the thing is, it is my own firm, so I have control as to what I do and do not do. And so I would set that aside as far as anyone else other than Crestview and not represent other people. It would not be fair to you to divide my time or energies that way.
Thank you.
Mr. Blocker?
Well, I don't know where to give a comment or discussion prior to selecting one of these applicants. But what I would like to see, we're at a crucial time in our CRA. But we got to have a director. And I think that we got the opportunity and privilege to select a grand director. And I also am very pleased, and I think we got a grand attorney. that's involved with this. We're talking about teamwork. Let's put them both on. Keep them on.
That your only comment?
Yeah, that's enough.
The only comment, first of all, Dr. Leone, appreciate you putting in for it because you certainly, you not only have the experience in CRA, but you have experience right here in Crestview. I do have to say I disagree with you, though. Regardless of whether there could be a conflict of interest serving in both positions, there certainly is a perceptual problem, at least in my book. I would not support that. If you wanted to be director, I would not want you to be the attorney also.
I understand.
And I realize it sounds crazy advising yourself, but that's what it sounds like. You're going to give legal advice to yourself as a director, and I just can't see that happening. So I wouldn't support that. But other than that, I think you're very qualified. Thank you for putting in for it.
Anything else?
No other comments or questions? Thank you very much.
I think she's very qualified.
All right, if I could get action from the council then.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Blocker.
I'll make a motion to nominate our CRA director, Miss Alicia Burleson.
I have a motion for Elisa Burleson to be the CRA director. Do I have a second?
I second.
I have a motion second for Elisa Burleson to be the CRA director. Discussion?
Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Hayes.
As you notice, I've been quiet, which is probably good.
I didn't say that.
But for this discussion time, you know, we all know we need visionary people who can look beyond their hand. The young lady has given me the impression that she can do that. Our attorney, I think he's a great attorney. What I'm looking at is the visionary and the technical aspect of it. You got to have both to make a team. I think the person that I second on has the visionary aspect of it. And I think that our other applicant has technical expertise that's needed to assist the person that's in there. I second it. I'm going to vote for the young lady. One thing that I think that's going to be necessary is that she gets as much CRA experience as possible with the courses, and I'm sure Ms. Leone can brief on that and tell her what what the four League of Cities has to offer with that, and the contacts with Ms. Tipton and all other people that are down there that can do that. But I think the visionary is what we need with the technical expert to make sure the visionary is going the right way. So that's my comments.
Any other discussion? I ask you to vote if you're in favor of the motion. Signify by raising your right hand. Those opposed? Motion carries 4-2. And congratulations, Ms. Burleson. Now, I would ask you, Dr. Leone, do you intend to stay on as our attorney?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
And I would just
Thank you.
ask that your new director keep me in mind and consult with me, with your permission, of course, but because I think one of my negatives of the whole process so far is that often I'm brought in way too late. And the attorney should be brought in early on these things, A, to negotiate, B, to advise, and to make sure that things are being done legally and correctly. And especially without redevelopment experience, it's imperative that she seeks out my advice, again, with your permission, to make sure that the CRA is doing things
Absolutely.
properly.
We want that team. We want that. Thank you. Moving to item 4 for discussion only.
We have a lot of discussion. Okay, we would like to make a brief overview of the 2017 master plan.
And y'all know it, within that plan, there is an approval process we have to go through. We have to go through allotment of funds. We have projects in there. We need priority and assignments. There's incentives in there for redevelopment for blighted areas. And we may want to work something out in conjunction with Habitat or the Housing Alliance. We have merchants incentives and upgrades and incentives for building upgrades and code violations. We have, we've actually talked with Main Street. They're concerned with a partnership request, which is part of your plan, which would be a viable way in order to help Main Street secure a working director there. That would be a very good use of our partnership plan. So each of those particular avenues are part of what is within your programs that is in your master plan. I think I had pulled them all.
And we're not gonna go through the
Okay.
whole master plan, correct?
No. I just wanted to
We're all
hit,
capable of going through this.
I just wanted to hit the highlights, to make sure I actually hit, business incubator projects was the other one. So we have incentives and partnerships and all that you need to review and decide how we're going to proceed with that. It went through the LPA and it went through and was approved with no amendments, which means that your plan is now ready to proceed itself to be approved by the city council. And it'll flow from the city council, and then that's where we get into a step or two to take it to Okaloosa County for their review. Part of your 2017 plan was the request to extend for an additional 30 years. So all of that is evolving through the master plan. Y'all may want to take some time, review, and in order to tweak it out. Our next quarterly meeting is set up. We have 2 quarterly meetings on record, which we may want to adjust that. The first one to finish out this fiscal year is September 21st, and the next one is December 14th, the start of your next fiscal year. Both of those locations are set at FAMU between the hours of 11 and 1. You may want to actually take action in order to realign those particular meetings. If not the date, then at least your location and your time.
Yeah, my direction as your chair is that we move the meetings, like I said, beginning the meeting, back here in a very professional setting in the evening when people can come. And so
Okay.
if I have your concurrence, we'll keep the same dates. However, I will say that I don't think we should restrict ourselves simply to quarterly meetings, especially when we have the hot things going on like the dog park and everything. So I think we need to look at having a meeting in August, and not wait all the way to September to have a quarterly meeting.
That's fine. Now, those are the only 2 meetings that I had on record, so
Right.
it's
But
your
we're gonna
prerogative
We're going
to.
to fill some of those in. Yes,
Okay.
Ms. Scott, do you have an input?
Well, I guess we voted for a director. We wouldn't do the salary and all that for any.
Well, at this point, I believe that the salary negotiation would begin between our supervisor, growth director, manager, who would then come back and recommend to us what she believes the salary should be, and then we would vote on it at that time. So in order to get it working right away, we're probably going to have to call a special meeting.
That's what I'm thinking.
Otherwise,
I'm all for that.
Can we hold on all of this to the next meeting? Which you want to go to?
Mr. Whitten, if I'm gonna make a comment.
I can't hear you, Miss Betsy, because you don't have the
If I
mic
can
on.
make a
on that
comment,
mic.
if it's only, a week and a half away, you could actually have a short special CRA meeting prior to your workshop at the end of the month and not have to have another day meeting.
I certainly would like that. Make it as quickly as possible.
Because you're not gonna take you a 3-hour meeting to
It's
negotiate.
just gonna be very small.
Entirely, so-
Are you gonna have,
Were you having a budget meeting in front of the workshop next time? I don't have my calendar with me.
I had tentatively planned one, but I'm hoping after Monday night we won't have to.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Well, we'd like to take that slot.
let's define the date on that now.
The 25th, is that the Monday?
I think it's the 25th.
25th, we have a, what, workshop beginning at
5:30.
5:30? So CRA special meeting at 5 o'clock?
Are you talking 25th of July?
I think it first was-
Yeah, July. We have a meeting that night already, Mr. Fair, at 5:30. We could have a special CRA meeting at 5 o'clock.
I'll be in.
I will postpone the budget workshop. So if we make any major changes Monday night, I'll need more than a week to do it anyway, so that's fine.
Okay, and that one was at 5:15, so if we have ours 5 to 5:30, we're good. You don't need the time. Good deal.
But to answer your question, Mr. Godney, we wouldn't be able to move all of these to a 30-minute meeting. So I think we're just getting, we're not really voting on anything right here tonight. We're just kind of getting an overview. But then we'll have a meeting in August.
Okay.
This is your homework, Mr. Gotten.
Yes, Mr. Fairclough.
Would it be possible next year to present this master plan in February? I mean, we're going to approve this for 4 months of 2017, or not approved.
No, sir, this is your 2017. This is what
This
will
is
be,
2017.
this will stand until you decide on a new master plan. It
So
may
this
be
one here.
2020,
Okay.
it may be 2025.
Okay.
Whenever you decide. Your
All right,
last one was
I have it.
2015.
Okay. Good question.
Okay.
Mr. Cox has a question.
Just a comment. I think quarterly meetings are good for the bean counting and books, but as far as the information loop, we've had problems with just having quarterly meetings. I think we might want to look at biennial, every other month. That would get 6 per year minimal.
You're required to post 4 quarterly meetings by law. We have to post that at the beginning of the year.
But we have,
So-
we just
You
had one.
can have more.
So you can have more.
have-
You can have them every week if you want to. It's hey.
I don't think so.
But I have to post 4 quarterly meetings. On September 30th, I will need to post 4 quarterly meetings for the next fiscal year. So those are pretty well generally just, hit and miss. Just like this one, we posted it for the 20th, but we've had
All
to
right.
revise
Let's
it.
hit this one.
So if you will,
Yes, Mr. Hicks.
Mr. President, since we're on this topic now, just a comment. We have a new young lady, who's going to be our CR director. We have our attorney, which has been here for over a year. If they work together as a team, I just believe our attorney's going to say, you need to have a meeting with your counsel. But then the CRI director, being in that position, she says, I just believe she's going to say, I need to get with the council. We need to set up a special meeting for things that, because I don't know, I just got this feeling things are going to take off. That's just the way I feel, and I hope I'm true about that. But it's been so much potential that's been going on in Crestview for the last couple of years, and we're at that point right now where we can nib out, touch it. We've been looking at it for years, but we can reach out and touch it now. And I think this lady's gonna help us reach out and touch it. I'm putting a lot of faith and confidence. Don't let me down now.
But speaking of that, you brought up a good point, and that is, and I don't think I have to remind Dr. Leone, but you probably have to do the briefing on public meetings, public records with the new CRA director to make sure she understands all the
Oh, yeah, sure.
the Florida statutes.
I think that you guys are hitting on that we need to talk either probably in person rather than telephonically and hit the high points.
Absolutely. Okay,
Okay, we've got your one CRA meeting for your director. You mentioned something about needing an August meeting.
yeah, I'm not comfortable with waiting just because the quarter's coming up. We have a lot of things going, and I think we need to meet more often
Okay.
than wait until September. Especially since we've done nothing since April. We've been dead since April. Not that April.
I didn't, can you pull up a calendar? I didn't bring my book with me.
I've got a question on that.
Well, go ahead and ask the question, and we'll set a date on it.
All right, before we get over this, Teresa, do we have a CRA director's office ready for this lady to occupy tomorrow?
Yes, sir. But I would like to move it to a bigger one, soon as they finish with their clearing out.
You want to make sure.
Final construction stuff.
I don't want that lady or nobody to say, wait, they not ready.
Oh, we've got it.
I want to touch it like he says.
Are you prepared to suggest a meeting in August, or do you need to send out an email on that?
Do you have the,
The schedule?
we're looking for a calendar?
Hang on, let me look at the council calendar.
That's all we need is more meetings, right, gentlemen?
We gotta earn the $80,000.
Turn your mic on when you say that.
Mr. Blocker thinks they gotta pay that for us.
14th and 28th are the two city council meeting nights.
Yeah, the 14th, 28th, it's just
The 21st is a Monday night. There are no meetings, there are no budget meetings, there are nothing scheduled for the 21st or the 7th at this, well,
We're gonna be in the conference, right?
7th will be, oh, that's right. No, that's the week after the,
Isn't that the conference?
no, the conference is the end of that week. You'd be back on Sunday.
Are you looking at the time before on Monday? You're looking at Monday, not on Thursday?
I'm looking Monday.
Monday. It depends if you want to keep your meetings on Thursdays, or if you want to move them to be in front of your council meetings on a Monday. She does have the two open tentatively in August in front of the council meeting.
If you want to do it on Thursday the 10th, I do have a tentative budget hearing. Again, that depends on what happens on Monday night.
Yeah, I knew that one was taken up.
But that is one of those issues that we could do the budget hearing another night, or hopefully at that point it'll be a 5-minute meeting, we won't have to worry about it. We can do it before the CRA.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Hayes.
we gotta consider, you see how the time we spent tonight.
Right.
When we start getting into this, I'm inclined that we might be here, hopefully not as long, but it's a tedious process going through a lot of these things. So we can't, putting it just before a board meeting, and we're all beat up and tired, and then hopefully it's not a long agenda for that night. So I wouldn't agree with that.
That's fine.
With that night.
I'm not in
with the same
favor of
thing.
long meetings either.
Yeah, that's not what we were talking about. We're talking about a separate night. August the
President.
10th is the week before y'all go to conference. The August the 24th, because actually the August the 10th is only a week and a half after the hiring meeting. You might want to give Ms.
What's August the 20th?
Get
What's
acclimated.
August the 24th?
24th.
That a
and-
Thursday?
It's a Thursday.
And it's not with our meetings.
The only thing going on is,
17th to 20th.
I have a meeting on the 24th.
I know, this 24th.
That's August the 24th, that may be charter review.
Board meeting. I can change it if I miss it, I guess.
I thought it was the week before that. No, charter review's on the 17th.
It's on the 17th? Okay. There's one down in this what's the?
You've got one on the 3rd, the 17th.
3rd, 17th, and then
31st.
31st, that's right. So the 24th is not charter review. Okay, good.
24th is not what?
The charter review meeting is also meeting on Thursdays.
Oh, but it's not that.
It's not on that one. It's
All right,
the week before and the week after.
Let's take 24th. It's a Thursday.
24th.
Couple with no other meetings. It's open.
It's open.
It's open.
It's open.
It's open.
We're good. It's
Fine.
open.
Fine.
5 o'clock somewhere.
5.
All right. That long to set a meeting. Imagine how long the meetings will last.
July 25th and August 24th.
Sit back there.
Last
Lisa,
item?
you better be watching and keeping an eye on us and seeing how long we go on these meetings.
I've been in longer, that's okay.
Okay. All right, let's wrap this up at some point.
Last item. Since you're going to be meeting in a short time, you may want to just give me a quick decision back at the next meeting. The replacement of the trees and the irrigation system down on Main Street. This needs to be considered before our festival season comes. It's deplorable. It's Public Services has agreed that it is time for refurbishing the equipment. However, they do not have anybody trained on that brand of equipment. This was actually installed as part of our CDBG grant improvements in the downtown area in 1997 and 2002.
I think what we need is some data on that, who, what, where, and why.
Well,
Bring us some stats at the next meeting that we can look at and say that's something we want to do or something we can't do or can't do.
Okay, well, that's just what I'm wanting to do. Do you want me to explore that with some pricing, or do you want to leave it with Public Services?
No, get us some numbers.
Numbers, will do. That's all I needed, direction.
But I do want to go back to the Main Street because we had the Main Street president out there, Paul Lowry, and I see the partnership request. I'm not sure exactly what that means. Either you or he could explain that to us so we can be thinking about it. Is that the $25,000 grant we do each year?
No,
or
sir.
Something else?
No, sir. You are currently have a contract with Main Street to provide deliverables, which is your festivals and the different activities on Main Street. And that was signed up for a 3-year contract, $25,000 in 2 increments.
That's what I just asked.
Yeah, in 2 increments. No,
$25,000.
that is separate from a partnership. The partnership is actually when you team together with an entity, and in your plan, it will tell you the description of the entities. And what they would do is, like a specific purpose is, Main Street needs a director that is going to be able to lead their organization. As we have a CRA director, and it's like a CRA Main Street director, what we need to do is have the CRA director fully functioning in CRA, lead and train the person that will take over as the events manager director under our contract with them, and partner with Main Street in order to facilitate funding for a director that will lead Main Street organization into a self-sustaining entity, which means that they don't have the funds to stand on their own now, because they've always been part of the city, because the city has provided their overhead director, and what they need to do is partner with the city. We're going to provide some additional funding. They'll take off and utilize the director to become a director with much more responsibility, such as allowing them to become self-sustaining, to be able to fund themselves, so that within a couple of years, they will simply break free from the obligations of the CRA and will go with and self-sustain themselves into their activities.
Well, then what we really need then, I didn't know what it actually meant. So what we would need is we would need Mr. Lowry to come in front of us and describe exactly what he's looking for and making requests to us in detail.
Before he can do that, you must adopt the plan. When it comes
I'm not
time,
saying that he's going to do it tonight. I'm saying that he will have to do it.
they will do that and work it out. They will do it and work it out just as anybody. But it's described on page 23 It's a CRA partnership incentive, and it means that, that you create a partnership with any private, it can be private or public partnership with a government agency, private organization, and what you do is you work as a partner for a short time to help facilitate whatever agreements you have
Okay.
made for that
I
partnership.
just want to know what it was, and.
It's on page
Mr. Lowry
23.
Come in front of us and make that request after we've adopted the plan.
After you've adopted this, they will do a formal request for it.
And by the same token, I told Mr. Lowry that I would like them to express their priorities at Main Street to the CRA, so we can take that into consideration when we look at priorities. We want to make sure that they have input to it, so.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Mr. Gandhi, you had a pressing question down there.
I just had a question, and I told you about this. This was supposed to be our last year to give Main Street money.
They're
That's
under,
exactly what you told me. It was a 3-year deal.
it's a 3-year contract. Yes, sir, it's a 3-year contract. And they have received it for 2 years.
Right,
So that next year will be their 3rd year of it.
right.
That contract is for deliverables. Deliverables include there's a list of what is expected. Those deliverables are to put on the festivals, to advertise the festivals, to have an events manager to carry out a certain facilitating the festivals. All that is separate, and that is under contract. A contract deliverable agreement between Main Street and the city. Okay? The partnerships are a type of situation where Main Street and the CRA would partner with a specific goal in mind. The goal that they have expressed is to have a director who can lead them into being a self-sustaining entity. And if the city of Crestview partners with them to help facilitate a director there that will help set in progress the ability to become self-sustaining, then the partnership will, if it's for a year, 2 years, whatever amount of time, and then that partnership will come to a conclusion. And with the goal in mind of having a director who can continue to lead them into the direction that can be self-sustaining, which means that they will be able to meet all their obligations.
They'll bring that to us.
Yeah, but that'll all
They'll bring
come,
the proposal to us. Mr. Fairclough, do you have a,
Yes, I have a comment before we wind up.
okay.
Are you done?
I'm done,
Okay.
if I'm good.
I'd like a consensus to direct our director to contact the owners of these, for lack of a better term, derelict buildings that we have in the CRA district. Find out how we can negotiate either their renovation or purchase or utilize them in some way so that they won't still be eyesores like an albatross around our neck.
I think you have consensus from us to try to find out the owners and find out what they intend to do and what we can do to help them do.
Right now, they're sitting there,
Empty.
they want exorbitant amounts if they're gonna sell them, and we have been accused, as Mr. Cox stated in the last meeting, kicking the can down the road. It's time to do something. And if we let these derelict property owners make the first move, it isn't going to happen. So we need to make the first move. I'm not suggesting that we buy them all. I'm suggesting that we start a dialogue with the owners to find out what we need to do.
I got a question.
Mr. Godley?
I think you ought to wait till after July the 25th after we are.
Well, no, I'm
I
just,
didn't-
We haven't agreed on it. She hasn't agreed on the salary or anything yet. Teresa's going to bring that back. That's what she said.
I think with Ms. Fairclough, I mean, once she takes over the position.
Right,
Oh, man.
That's what-
yeah,
She wouldn't do it tomorrow.
I know.
All right, good enough. All right, I would call for any comments from the audience before we wrap up. Anybody would like to speak? Mr. Lowry, come on down.
Paul Lowry, President Main Street, 398 or 386 North Main Street. I'm coming to you tonight, Mr. Mike Carroll from Hub City Smokehouse. As you know, was our Florida's Retailer of the Year, and he just continues to do so much for the community and comes up with some tremendous ideas. And this is a very fun idea that I'd like to present on his behalf. He has taken, I know you've probably seen his pink pig hay bale.
Yeah.
It's an eye catcher. People like to get pictures taken beside it. Well, he has done something even more unique. I'd like to show you. He has created the minions from the Despicable Me, and they're fantastic. And he has two of those. One is with one hay bale. One is with two, very, very tall, and would like to see about getting permission to place those two gentlemen at the end of Main Street, at the south end, at the park, close to the roadway, with a sign that says 2 million reasons why you should visit historic downtown Crestview. And it would be such an eye catch. You would have folks, kids would have their parents bring them down here. It'd be picture taking time all over the place. And that's kind of to start the ball rolling. And then later on in the year, when we get towards the festival, the fall festival, he would actually like to put together a contest for groups to come in, and I think he's working with the Rotary to actually purchase the hay bales. And these groups would be able to come in and do whatever they would like with painting up a hay bale, and then place them in the grass median along Main Street for the week or two prior to the fall festival. And it could be a spider or a Frankenstein or whatever they might like to draw. It is or paint on the hay bales. Place those out along Main Street. You would have folks out wanting to, again, walking down Main Street to the south end of the Main Street for the fall festival, not just confined from Martin Luther towards north, towards the courthouse. It'd be a lot of picture-taking opportunities, and anyway, he's willing to do that and put that together. We'd just like to get some permission, seeing as it was a right-of-way issue on the placement of the first for the minions, and then for being able to do this for the contest with prior to the fall festival.
I think that's more of a city council issue.
Mr. Scott, I couldn't hear what you said.
This is more of a city council issue than the CRA.
Ms. Fairclough?
I think that's a great idea,
I do too.
and I would support it. However, I would like to ask council to determine if that is any copyright infringement to use those minions.
It just might be, I'm not sure what, they're pretty new, and usually copyrights last a good long time.
I would like a determination from council before I vote on it.
Yeah, it could cause you some
But
trouble.
what Mr. Godney said, it's true, the right-of-way is a city council issue.
Right.
Okay.
We
And
can
I
make that determination.
I brought that up to Mr. Carlos Jones today. I went and sat and talked with him, and he said that I should probably bring it to the CRA. So that's why.
Well, and I think you have a concurrence. Everybody thinks
Okay.
anything creative like that is fantastic. But to actually implement it,
Right.
go through public services, probably have to go to Teresa for the right-of-way and that kind of stuff, and bring it on back to the city council.
Right.
Thank you, Paul. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening.
Good
My
evening.
name is Phyllis Enzer, and I live at 2324 West 90. And I used to be the chair of the Facade Grant Committee. And I also happen to own property on Main Street. that I use for storage. I wouldn't call myself a derelict owner, but I do have some comments I wanted to make about this packet. I never applied for a facade grant while I was on the board. I just felt like it was a conflict of interest. Now I would like to. But I don't know if you've seen this. Now, I was on it. But it's very cumbersome. It's very extensive. And at the time I was on the board, it was for $1,500. Now it's been expanded to $10,000. There's a place where you have to make sure your surety bond is there. You got to get your products approved. Okay? I understand why we did all this. And now the match, of course, is $10,000. So I hear I'm saying all this to say intention. I'm hearing that there's a lot of blight. And if our intention is to help owners clear up the blight, let's make it a little less cumbersome. I want you to know this too. I went online. Now, I know that this exists. I went online to the website. I couldn't find it. I came down here. Unfortunately, I talked to someone who hadn't heard about it. I said, I know it's here. I had to search and search and search and search to get what I know is here. So my point is, if the intention is to clear up the blight, let's make it a little easier for owners who really want to do something. I don't have a derelict building. I have painted mine. And I have a historic building that I would like to restore. I would even it's a storage building for me now, but I wanted to take even the windows and take historic pictures of downtown Crestview and have that. Something that says this town matters. I care about this town. I love this town. And I want to do my part. But I just want to say, if our intention is to help owners, let's help owners. That's it.
Thank you. And if you hear earlier, that's one of the discussion items we had, is to look at that and make it easier for people to apply.
Yeah,
But
and make
thank
it
you.
easy to
I
find,
mean,
please. It wasn't
get
even
personal
in the
input from you.
office.
That's
Yeah,
great. Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
Any other comments? Yes, Mrs. Parker.
We know that we're getting closer and closer to
Would
work.
you go ahead and give us a name and address?
I'm
Even though we
sorry.
all know you.
Linda Parker. I live at 720 Adams Drive here in Crestview. We know that the work and all of the interest and the issues are coming closer and closer to us. There were a couple of things mentioned tonight that I do remember very distinctly, and I would like to bring it forward one more time. As far as the depot restoration or the raising of the depot with the plans and things that we have, I think there's two ways to look at that, and I believe we've discussed it in the past. The depot does not have to have anything to do with the CSX railroad or the train coming through. That was a replacement of a historic structure that we had here in town. Now, the railroad company is saying that if there is a depot in place at certain cities, and I understand Crestview was one of the main cities that they were looking at when they first brought this idea forward. The depot originally has been talked about as far as the structure of a historic replacement, but also as a transportation center, as a community operations center, as educational areas, numerous things that it could be used for. And as far as it seems recently, it has just been put in a category that it has to be a restaurant with this or this or this. According to everything I've looked at, the grants have various items that you have to meet, the requirements to meet. And I think those can be worked around. That was the only, to my recollection, the only project listed for 2016 when the CRA project started, and it hasn't gone anywhere. So I would like to request that the depot project, which was the 2016 project, and I think there may have already been some funding assigned to it, that can be checked. But I would like to see tonight if we can't put that back on the request, and maybe by the end of maybe by 2018, we could have that back in place. I know the community would like to see that happen.
Thank you, Ms. Parker. And as you heard earlier, we're going to we're going to set priorities at our next meeting.
Okay.
And it's been mentioned around here that what happened to that priority, it wasn't intentionally dropped. So we'll look at that. Thank you.
Well, there's just not been explanations
I understand
to citizens' satisfaction, so that will be fine. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments? If not, I hereby adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for coming.